What happens if you cheat death? If death has plans for you, and yet you survive its devastating fate? Furthermore, what happens when death now has a vendetta and is hunting you down, making your fate inevitable? Well, these are questions that were posed in the horror movie Final Destination. Released in the year 2000, this haunting tale tells the story of high school student Alex Browning, who is about to embark on a school trip to Paris. But Alex gets a terrifying vision of the plane exploding, where he and other classmates are dragged off the plane during a panic commotion. As it happens, the plane did blow up, and now death is hunting down Alex and his fellow students, as it was their fate to die in the explosion. The question is, can Alex and his classmates cheat death, or are their fates inevitable? When I first saw this movie, it scared the poo-poo out of me. It kind of shows that death is the ultimate movie villain, and you can't reason with it, and it doesn't have eyes that you can look into, and there is simply no escaping it. Sooner or later, death will find us all, and take us away with its cold, merciless embrace.
Okay guys, in this episode, we're going to try and avoid meeting our maker, as we look into 10 things that you didn't know about Final Destination. The most final of all destinations. So, let's check it out.
Number 10. Inspired by a true event. Final Destination was the brainchild of scriptwriter Jeffrey Reddick. It was actually the first big project that he wrote. He got the idea of this terrifying tale about death literally hunting people down after reading about a woman who was about to board a flight, only for her mother to call her the night before and urged her not to take that particular flight, as she had a bad feeling about it. So taking her mother's advice, she switched flights, and lo and behold, the flight that she was going to go on did indeed crash. Not only did Reddick find this story creepy, but it got the gears turning in his head with the idea of what if she was supposed to die on the flight, like as if it was fate or something, and thus the seeds had been sown for the Final Destination. It's also been suggested that Reddick may have been inspired by a 1984 movie called Soul Survivor, which is also about a character who survives a plane crash, where supernatural forces are after her, as if suggesting that she was meant to die in the crash. Regardless, Reddick got writing. However, originally it wasn't intended for this horror tale to be a theatrical movie. Number 9. Final Destination started off as a TV episode. When Reddick wrote a spec script for Final Destination, he originally wrote it as an episode of the Xfiles. Yep, the science fiction TV show from the 90s, which follows FBI agents Mulder and Scully, who investigate paranormal phenomena. I can actually really see the Final Destination as an X-Files episode, as it's a story which would have fit in with the show. However, New Line Cinema got involved and purchased Reddick's script. Reddick had actually had a long history with New Line Cinema, as when he was 14, he wrote a script that was a prequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street, and sent it to the studio, on the account that the studio owned and produced the A Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But his script was sent back unread, due to a policy of reading unsolicited material. Reddick then reached out to New Line's founder Robert Shea himself, and from there the two would frequently correspond, to which Reddick ended up participating in an internship at New Line Cinema. The film company asked Reddick to expand on his idea and to write it not as an X-Files episode, but as its own theatrical movie.
Still, given how creepy Final Destination is, I'm actually really curious to see what Jeffrey Reddick's take on A Nightmare on Elm Street was like.
And the Final Destination movie does have government agents in it, so maybe they were intended to be Mulder and Scully. Number 8. The movie still somewhat got the X-Files touch. New Line Cinema passed the script onto writing team Glenn Morgan and James Wong. The irony being Final Destination was originally conceived as an X-Files episode, and both Wong and Morgan were writing partners whom actually wrote for the X-Files. With the Final Destination script, they decided to take their leap from TV to film, and they were both interested in the story of Final Destination, but they would make rewrites to the script to match their own personal visions of the story. They didn't want it to feel like a typical slasher movie, one with a killer causing the mayhem, but rather the world around the characters itself as the antagonist, where everyday mundane objects can be used by death to create horrific and terrifying deaths. Wong in particular was fascinated with the concept of when people just know that something bad is going to happen or have a bad feeling, with that bad feeling turning out to be true. Wong became the director of Final Destination, and producing team Craig Perry and Warren Zide came on board as co-producers of the movie, as they were fans of the X-Files and liked the idea of unforeseen forces attacking characters due to obstructing Death's plans. Their production company also co-produced the teen comedy American Pie 1 year earlier. Morgan also explained that one time he was at an airport in Vancouver when John Denver started playing on the airport's speakers, which he found unsettling, as Denver had just previously died in a plane crash, which was something that ended up being added to the film itself.
Morgan and Wong wanted to do to airplanes what Jaws did for sharks.
Number 7. Casting quirks. When it came to the movie's main characters of Alex Browning and Clear River, the studio originally wanted Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst in the roles, but it is said that they both turned it down, as at that time they were gearing up to star in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man as Spider-Man and Mary Jane retrospectively. So the part of Claire was given to Ali Larter, as she had previously starred in the teen drama Varsity Blues, where she had an interesting strawberry and whipped cream wardrobe attire. Yeah, anyone who's seen that film knows what I'm talking about. The role of Alex was cast with Devon Sawa in the role. In fact, he was the very last person to be cast during the movie's production. Originally, Morgan and Wong were hesitant to cast the Canadian actor in the part, which led Sawa to partake in several screen tests. But he got the part when Wong and Morgan saw him in the teen comedy horror Idle Hands, which came out 1 year earlier. Incidentally, Sawa first read the script while on a plane, which caused him to keep looking out the plane's window and making sure that the engine is okay. I mean, you can't really blame him. When it came to the part of the socially awkward Billy Hitchcock, actor Sean William Scott was cast. He was popular at the time for playing Stifler in American Pie. The Stifler character is the total opposite to Billy, as that character was loud, popular, and obnoxious. The more shy and nerdy Billy is kind of like the anti-Stifler. The character was originally written as a schoolboy with a large frame, which was obviously changed when Scott was cast in the role. The teacher who gets caught up in Death's vengeful whirlwind, Valerie Newton, was played by Kristen Cloak, who is the real-life wife of the movie's co-writer and co-producer Glenn Morgan, and she had previously starred in an episode of The X-Files. Number 6. Characters named after horror icons. There are several characters in Final Destination who are named after old and classical horror movie directors, or at least people associated with the horror genre. The most obvious one is the character Billy Hitchcock, who's named after Alfred Hitchcock, who gave us the classic horror movies Psycho and The Birds. The Alex Browning and Todd Wagner characters are named after Todd Browning, who directed the classic 1931 version of Dracula. Valerie Luton is based on Val Luton, who had a career of directing horror movies, including Cat People. Agent Schreck is of course named after Max Schreck, who played the sinister vampire in the 1922 Nosferatu silent movie. Blake Dreyer is named after Dutch filmmaker Carl Theodor Dreyer, who directed a 1932 movie called Vampire. Terry Chaney is named after Lon Chaney, who played the Phantom of the Opera in 1925. George Wagner is named after a director also called George Wagner, who directed the 1941 Wolfman classic. And finally, Agent Wien is named after Robert Wien, who directed the 1920 horror German expressionism film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And these aren't the only ties to previous horror movies, as Final Destination also features a small role by the legendary Tony Todd, aka the Candyman himself, who plays a sort of Grim Reaper character called William Bloodworth, who works at a funeral home and knows all the secrets and knowledge of death.
Making Tony Todd a sort of twisted Obi-Wan Kenobi of Final Destination.
Number 5. Filming location. Final Destination takes place in a fictional town called Mount Abraham, which is located in the state of New York. However, despite being set in New York, Final Destination was mainly filmed around Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. Despite the airport scenes being set at John F. Kennedy International Airport, the filming of the airport scenes actually took place at Vancouver International Airport. Incidentally, the character Clear River's cabin in the movie is the same cabin that would go on to be used in Lake Placid. Final Destination's set designer, John Willett, made 2 versions of each set, one version to be shown before the accident, and slightly different ones to be shown after the accident. The sets after the accident were designed to look a little off. To not look quite right, with the audience to not know what's going on with the sets. Like as if it's creeping them out, but they just can't figure out why it's creeping them out. He called this process skewing the sets, where the sets were designed to give the viewer a sense of unease, as if something isn't right. An example of this is before the accident, the world in the movie is full of rich, vibrant colours, but after the crash, the colours are washed up and faded. And the objects seen in this not quite right world are slightly horizontal or vertical rather than being shown square on. And as for all the characters' deaths, well, for each death scene, a life-size cast of the actors were used, which is how we got scenes like the infamous bus scene, which scared the crap out of me when I saw this film for the first time. I did not expect that to happen.
As for these skewered sets, I actually really like the idea that after surviving the plane crash, the world is kind of topsy-turvy, and it just isn't right due to the characters who survived, and that they have to die in order to correct this glitch.
Number 4. Alternative titles. When it came to marketing the movie, there was a very clever movie poster campaign, where there were 3 versions of the poster. One with the characters' faces looking normal, somber, but normal. And then a second one where their faces have a skull shadow casting over half their faces, and one where their heads are shown to be entire skulls. It goes with the idea that death is coming for these guys and there is no escaping it. However, in certain parts of the world, Final Destination went under different titles. For example, in some locations the movie was known as Premonition, which actually makes sense, as the movie itself is based around a premonition. In other areas, it was simply known as Destination. And yeah, I guess that still works too, although Destination doesn't quite have the same punch as Final Destination. But my favourite of the alternative titles is The Death Gods Come. Yeah, that sounds really badass. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I was to start a heavy metal rock band, I would most probably call it The Death Gods Come.
I mean, is it just me, or does that title really sound metal?
Number 3. Music. The score for Final Destination was composed by film and TV composer Shirley Walker. And yes, I actually really like this score. It has moments where it sounds genuinely eerie and creepy, and Walker's score got lots of praise from critics, who felt that the music helped create a really spooky and unnerving tone for the movie. Walker had previously scored episodes of the Batman animated series, as well as helping with the scores for Ghoulies, True Lies, and Mystery Men. And she created that kick-ass Batman theme for the animated Batman movie, Mask of the Phantasm. So she truly is a very talented composer. The John Denver song Rock Mountain High is heard throughout the film. The 1972 folk song is heard whenever something terrible is going to happen, almost like the song itself is a representation of the terrifying death that has come for the main characters. The song was chosen because, as mentioned, Denver had previously died in a plane crash. In fact, his demise just happened 3 years before the release of Final Destination in 1997. Final Destination also features a few contemporary songs from popular music acts at that time, including Joe 90 and 9 Inch Nails. Number 2. Destination, Franchise, and Beyond. After Final Destination's release, the movie would go on to become a film series, with the Final Destination movies becoming one of the most popular horror franchises of the 2000s, with each movie showing new and creative ways to kill characters. First up, there was Final Destination 2 in 2003, Final Destination 3 in 2006, The Final Destination in 2009, and Final Destination 5 in 2011. Last year I had a marathon of these movies, and I actually really did enjoy the second one, which I actually found to be ickier and stickier than the first movie. But by the time I got to the third and fourth movies, I felt like it was more about, hey, let's watch characters getting killed, and it no longer had that creepy tension and scary unease of the first movie. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I also felt that the deaths in the later movies were starting to feel silly and unbelievable. Like snapping in half from landing awkwardly while doing gymnastics. Yeah, that might happen if you're made out of jelly. Also in the later movies, the deaths looked really, CGI-ish, which to me just didn't feel as impactful. Unlike the first movie, which used life-size body casts of the actors as mentioned, which just made it feel more realistic. Apparently, Devon Sawa was going to come back for Final Destination 2, but didn't due to a falling out with New Line Cinema. It's been speculated that the falling out was due to monetary reasons, but it has since come out that it was more over creative differences. After the release of the fifth movie in 2011, there were plans to make a Final Destination 6 and 7 back-to-back, pending on the fifth movie being a hit, but I guess that didn't happen. Then in 2019, a reboot was in the works, with Devon Sawa saying that he would totally be up for returning to the series. But the following year, this was changed from the sixth movie being a reboot to a continuation of the previous movies, and was to focus on a group of first responders, aka police officers, paramedics, and firefighters, and so on, as in their line of work, they have to face death every day, and make life choices as to whether people live or die. Well, this is according to producer Craig Perry, a concept which he found fascinating, which would fit right in with the Final Destination series. According to Final Destination's creator, Jeffrey Reddick, a sixth movie was in production but was pushed back due to the global pandemic. And even as late as 2022, it's been announced that a sixth movie is happening and it will be released by HBO Max.
So, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. C'est la vie, such is life.
Bonus entry, deleted ending. So we all know the intense ending to Final Destination, where the Alex, Claire, and Carter characters believe that they have finally cheated death, and visit Paris, only for death to catch up with them, proving that no matter how hard they try, they can't escape their fates. Well, originally there was an entirely different ending, where during the movie's climax, Alex sacrifices himself and dies from being burnt alive in order to save Claire. But that's not all, you see. This alternative ending is part of a deleted subplot, where earlier in the movie, Claire discovers that she is pregnant with Alex's baby, and after surviving the ordeal, she gives birth. Later, we see Carter weeping at the memorial headstone, where Claire and her baby meet up with him, where they talk about making the most of life, and that death can come at any time. This ending is more of an upbeat, fairy tale Hollywood ending. It even ends with a sort of Forrest Gump leaf blowing in the wind visual. It's very whimsical. But this ending shows that death can be cheated, and had this been the ending that they went with, I don't think there would have been any room for any sequels. No, the ending we got is much better. It's shocking and memorable, and sticks to the main theme of the entire franchise, that death can't be cheated or escaped, which does make this ending more pessimistic, but definitely a better ending as far as logic and storytelling goes. I'll take this ending over the wishy-washy ending any day. Number 1. Avoiding death, but not bad reviews. Final Destination was released in March in the year 2000, and it was very financially successful, bringing in nearly $113 million on a $23 million budget. The movie opened up in the number 3 spot in the box office, behind Aaron Brockovich and Mission to Mars. Damn, it got beaten by Mission to Mars? Well, that's disappointing. Final Destination got pretty disappointing reviews from critics. The New York Times called it dramatically flat. The New York Post called it a silly, bad-acted slasher movie minus the slasher. And the Washington Post suggested that the only true Final Destination was the audiences asking for their money back. LA Weekly made a review that doesn't even make sense, as it states that the movie takes itself too seriously, but not seriously enough. I mean, what does that even mean? That's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one. I mean, with reviews like that, you just can't win, can ya? However, Roger Ebert and the San Francisco Chronicle and Variety did praise the movie, for it feeling like a fresh, original, and energized horror movie, right up there with Scream. And despite its critical detractors, Final Destination was popular among audiences, which of course led to its sequels. Over the years, there have been many memorable teen horror movies, from Halloween to Friday the 13th, to A Nightmare on Elm Street, to Fright Night, to Night of the Creeps, to Scream. One constant thing in all these other teen horror movies is a face behind the evil. A deranged killer of some kind who is causing all the chaos and carnage. That's what makes Final Destination so unique for its genre. The main killer is a force that will eventually kill us all. A force that is actually very real and not some made-up movie boogeyman, and affects people every day, all the time, forevermore. A force of which there is no escape. A force that can't be looked into the eye or reasoned with. An invisible enemy that's both natural and supernatural. One that's going to use the surrounding environment itself to attack its main characters. A complete invisible enemy. That fascinating element makes Final Destination a terrifying but unique horror movie experience. One that is not only enjoyable, but may even have you questioning your own mortality.
Yeah, look, I actually really like this movie, and it's a movie that I've increasingly enjoyed more with age. When I very first saw it, I myself was a teenager, and I was like, yep, that's a pretty cool horror movie, now I'm ready to move on to the next one. But with age and maturity, I've noticed that Final Destination has themes and directing styles that I really have come to appreciate, and that the movie really does pose some intellectual questions about the order of things. So it's not just some dumb teen horror movie of its time. Anyway, I'm Minty, and I'm kind of disappointed that Final Destination didn't feature the song Final Countdown. Oh well. See ya!